Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. It's Sunday morning, at least where we are. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today. We've got a very cool program for you here, and the co-captain today is Mr. Craig Kaminski. What's up, Craig?
Good morning, Pete. How are you?
Doing good. I'm feeling doomy today. How you feeling?
I am a little doomy, but also a little metally and punky at the same time. So
Yeah,
for
a little
these for
stone, a
this
little
ranking,
stonery, a little bikery, right? Yeah,
yeah, it's all over.
bikery. Is that even a word? Bikery. I don't know.
Bikery-ish.
Bikery. I don't know. Anyway, the reason why we're feeling all these things is we're going to be talking about and ranking the albums of the Obsessed. So this is the band led, of course, by Scott Wino Weinrich, of course, from other bands of note, right, like Saint Vitus and Spirit Caravan, and he's done some solo things as well, and he's guested on all sorts of other albums. But the Obsessed is kind of like his little doom slash stoner band that he put together back in the early '90s, and they've got four full-length studio albums to their credit, with another one we just found out recently on the way in early 2024. Normally, when we hear about stuff like that, and we're planning on doing a album ranking, we kind of put the brakes on and we wait for the new album to come out. But we basically had this all set to go when we found out about this new album coming out in February on Ripple Music. So Craig and I were like, all right, let's go ahead with the ranking, and then maybe when the new album comes out, maybe we'll do a joint review of that album, and then we'll mention where we think that might sit in the catalog, seeing as we just ranked this. So, yeah, so we only have four albums here, and we're going to rank them as we like them. So, and I'm going to have Craig kick us off with his number four.
Okay, thanks. And just recently we had the Q&A episode of Hudson Valley Squares where you said what one of the early questions was, what was one of the hardest topics that you've had to prepare for? Well, now I would answer my obsessed ranking, because all four of these albums are very good, and they have I don't want to say similar type of sound to them, but they do blend together very well. And so ranking these is not the easiest when you enjoy all four of the albums. But kicking
Yep.
it off right away, and be curious to see if we match or not. But my number four, I'm going with Lunar Womb, which is the second album from 1991. My version is on Meteor City Records. I think I got this used from eBay or so at the time. The lurid cover here is Saturn eating his, it's called Saturn Eating His Son. It's from a painting by Goya. It's a very evil looking cover.
Yeah.
But contained within is quite a bit of variety, which we'll see on some of the other albums. I really enjoy this one, but you have to rank them. Start with one at the bottom as this, but with the tracks, I mean, Brother Blue Steel has a opening track, has a really nice riff. I like that a lot. But then we go the right away. The next song, Bardo, is fast. So this isn't your traditional doom that I would say all these albums. There's different songs of different speed, of different heaviness, but all of them have Wino's vocals, which I personally think he is a really underrated vocalist. They're what I might call weathered, weary, and wise. The way that he sings, he doesn't scream. He has a really good melody with songs that are fast or mid-paced or a little slow. This isn't dirgy, slow, sludgy doom like some other bands are. This is more, I don't know, more metallic and more bikery-ish, as Pete had mentioned earlier. But again, Bardo, fast-paced rocker. Spew is another faster one. A track called Back to Zero on here is actually sung by bass player Scott Reeder. He has nice, clean vocals on some things. No Blame and No Moss are two separate songs, are both faster. So it's a really cool album with lots of variety in it, some doom and some faster, almost punky stuff. But you have to start somewhere, and my number four is Lunar Womb.
Yeah, more about that in a little bit. Yeah, I had a feeling our rankings would be pretty different because these are all really strong albums, and sometimes it's just like, well, for me, what I found when I was going through these records, it's like the production of each album is a little bit different sounding, even though, like you said, each album is filled with all this variety of all these different styles of metal and heavy rock and whatnot. So you get like those like different flavors on each album. So I think it comes down to, well, which albums have more of the songs you really love, and maybe what production values do you hold a little higher, right? So this was tough. I mean, I could easily say, and I say this all the time, but my ranking next week could totally change here. It's like, for me, it's just like, this is like not set in stone forever. This is just kind of how I'm feeling this week on these albums. So I'm going to go with my number 4. I'm going to go with The Church Within from 1994, which is the third album. So they got signed to Columbia Records. Oh, it's not crazy, right? That this band would get signed to Columbia Records. I mean, who would have thunk it? So this is, of course, Wino on guitars and vocals. You got Guy Pinhas on bass and Greg Rogers on drums. Greg played on a couple of these albums. He was a longtime member of the band. So this is the last one before the big breakup. So they broke up for like about a decade, or actually more than that. And we had like nothing from this band for a decade plus, and this was the last one right before that happened. So you got some really strong tracks on here. You got To Protect and Serve, which is the really potent opener. I really like that one a lot. Field of Hours, awesome, kick-ass riffs. A lot of good riffs on these albums, guys. But again, like Craig mentioned, it's not all slow and sludgy and doomy. This band keeps you on your toes at every time, and you could have like a traditional sounding doom track, then a cool like kind of groovy stoner track, and then you might have a little bit of psych and some classic 70s hard rock, and then like biker rock, right? So it's like there's like a mix of everything here. You get some galloping metal on Streamlines, right? So just traditional sounding metal song. Blind Lightning is more slower, more grinding doom. Neats Brigade, Total Crusher, longest song on the album, just under 7 minutes. Skybone is back to more slow and ponderous stuff. You get heavy biker rock on Street Side. Climb Out of Despair is more doomy. Decimation is more like a fast-paced, fist-pumping headbanger. So a little bit of everything. I find there's maybe a couple songs on here that are a little generic sounding, and that's really the only reason I put this in at number 4, because I think it's a really, really strong album. So, like you said, something's got to go at number 4. For me, it's this one, but I would recommend it. If anybody wanted to start their journey with the Obsessed here, I wouldn't argue that at all. So that's my number 4.
And more about that one later. But my number 3, and again, I had these jumbled a few days ago, but I firmly put them in now. My number 3, I'm not sure if it'll be possibly a surprise, but I have the self-titled debut from 1990 as my number 3. Now, one thing I will say about this, the tone of this is awesome, despite its possibly meager budget on the recording process. I think this sounds immense for only 3 guys, and it's just the rough recording, but wow, I love the way this sounds. The opener, Tombstone Highway, great song. Forever Midnight, I love that riff. That is a really, really fun song. Then you have again right away in the as is with all the albums, you get some variety. The song called Freedom, it's almost a boogie rocker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's but so much fun. Inner Turmoil starts slow and then gets a little bit faster. And the way again, track 2, The Way She Fly. I love that title. Just the tone of that is just wow, and a mid-paced song, but all of these keep your interest, and there are a lot of just great variety. And again, Wino's vocals, expressive, and just you soak them in, and it's just almost relaxing, that the way that he sings, and again, just doesn't yell, and very pleasant sounding. So that my number 3, the self-titled.
It's also my number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about Wino's vocals. They're kind of really emotional. He's got like a little kind of higher pitched tone to his voice. I find that he sings a little differently here than he does with St. Vitus. And I think that's a good thing, right? Because I don't find that the Obsessed sound anything like them at all. And in fact, other than maybe on a track or two on here, like The Way She Fly, that reminds me a little bit of St. Vitus. But the rest of the stuff is just good. It's just good. Like, again, it's kind of like 70s style heavy rock on some of this, some biker rock stuff on here. And this one's got Mark Lowell on bass and Ed Julie or Gooley on drums. I don't know how he says his name. It's a pretty short album, right? Too. It's like 31 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, really short.
Yeah, so really short. But I like that there's good classic hard rock on here. There's stoner on here. You know, a couple tracks you could call doom on here. Like Red Disaster for me is like one of the true doom tracks on this album. It's a really good one. You mentioned Inner Turmoil, which I think is terrific. River of Soul is really cool, right?
Yeah.
Kind of moody, right? It's mid-pace, cool riffing, and not traditional doom riffing. Then you got some plotting stuff, which is good. But I just think it's I like the way you kind of pointed out the production of this album, even though it's kind of low budget, primitive sounding. At the same time, it sounds really good that way. And it definitely doesn't sound like an album from 1990. Like if you were to listen to like this album next to like, let's say a Trouble album from the same time period, they don't sound anything alike, right? This sounds like it came out like probably like 10 or 15 years before, but it's from 1990. So yeah, I think it's a really strong debut. I dig it quite a bit. I think I just like the other two a little bit more. So that's what it comes down to.
All right. Moving along, this one surprised even me because this was originally as my number 4, as my least favorite. But then upon re-listening to this, it's like, you know what? I really enjoy this, and that is Sacred, the last album as of today. But again, as Pete mentioned, a new album coming in January. This is from 2017. The odd thing about this is the lineup, because initially when Sacred was announced to be coming out, it was listed that Wino and Bruce Falkenberg was going to be playing bass for this. Now, Bruce Falkenberg played bass and sang on the Hidden Hand records that Wino did from 2005 through 2008. But then when the album came, and so again, that's kind of weird. So you got 2 guys from Hidden Hand, but you're going to call it an Obsessed album. So that's kind of weird. But then the album comes out and Dave Sherman's on bass, and he was in Spirit Caravan. So now you got 2 guys from Spirit Caravan, 2 out of the 3 from Spirit Caravan, but you're going to call it an Obsessed album. But it's really good. I mean, again, picking up, first album in over 20 years, 20 or no, not 20. How long was it? I can't even do math.
It's close to 20 years. Yeah. It's
6 plus 17. So 23 years since the last album. But I'll tell you what, they pick up right where they left off with from the prior album, Church Within. Razor Wires is a really good fun song. I in my opinion. Be the Night is mid paced, and then it gets fast. The opener, Sodden Jackal, which I'm pretty sure is an older song that they kind of repurposed, is a really good mid pace. I like that riff. Punk Crusher, fast rocker, and as the lyrics say, it's a crusher. There's even a cover on this of a Thin Lizzy song, which, full disclosure, I'm called It's Only Money. I'm not full disclosure, I'm not terribly familiar with that, and it trades vocals with Wino and Dave Sherman on it. I like it. I mean, it's not meant to necessarily be better than the Thin Lizzy song, but I think it complements the other songs on the album very well. Stranger Things, another a good mid-paced song that I really love, and the title track, Sacred. Love the riff on that. So surprised even me how much I went upon re-listening to this, how much I really enjoyed Sacred. So check this out. As with all of these, I think it really deserves your attention, and it's a great comeback album from them under the Obsessed banner, despite the possible confusion of the band members.
Yeah. which is kind of indicative of this whole catalog, right? The band members constantly changing, and dude, I'm even worse at math than you, because I was saying before, oh, there's like a 10-year break or a little bit over that. No, hey, you're right, it's 23 years. Like, what the hell was I thinking? I'm like, I can't do my math either. I'm like, Jesus. Yeah, so it's my number two as well, and I had it at number one for a bit, and I'll tell you why. I think the production of this album by Frank Marchand is terrific. I mean, this album sounds immense. I love the guitar tones on this album, just so crunchy and powerful. And I don't know if we mentioned, but this is on Relapse Records. For those of you who are familiar with lots of stuff on Relapse Records, all the artwork was done by the guy who worked with Mastodon and lots of other folks. What is his name? I'm forgetting his name. Orion Landau. He's done work with a lot of Relapse Records folks over the years. Sod and Jackal kicks off the album in a great way. It's so evil sounding, so crushing. You mentioned Punk Crusher. That could almost be a Motorhead song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not doom at all. It's not even stoner. It's just grimy, heavy rock, man. Just really cool. The title track has one of the great all-time stoner metal riffs. Just
I
love it. Perseverance of Futility is excellent. I love the Thin Lizzy cover. It sounds like it belongs here, right? And it's an homage to the original, right? But it's just like, I remember the first time I heard this album, I was kind of like, oh, wait a second, I know that. And then I'm like, that's the Thin Lizzy song. They do it great. It's really good. Stranger Things is really interesting. They're doing lots of different stuff on that song. You got a little acoustic guitar at the beginning, kind of atmospheric. He does these cool melodic vocals like on the chorus. There's some heavy riffing going on, screaming lead guitars. Really, really good song. Love Razor Wire, killer.
Haywire, that's another really good one.
Yeah. Be the Night and Haywire are very similar. They're both really fast-paced songs, which is kind of cool. A lot of variety on this album. My Daughter, My Sons is more of like a straightforward kind of like metal song. Really good. I love it. And I love the way this album sounds. I mean, if you love just really well recorded, pulverizing, crunchy riffage that touches on a lot of the different styles we talked about, you might want to start with this one. It's just great. And it sounds like modern. It sounds really modern, but it ticks all the boxes. And I love the cover art too as well. It's very
awesome. I think it's cool.
So this could be my number one. Like I said, it was up until this morning.
My number one was your number four, and that's okay. And I went with Church Within. Love this album. This was one of the ones that when we had a Hudson Valley Squares sometime last year about favorite doom albums, this was in my top 5. And again, the sound of this album I just love the way that it's recorded. Possibly that it was on a major label for the time, but To Protect and to Serve, that riff is just so great. It's just this like a tank. I mean, I love it. I love the track 3, Streamlined. That's 2 minutes and 5 seconds. In that 2 minutes and 5 seconds, you get 2 guitar solos, and it's a fast song. I love it. It's like one of those 2 minutes of perfection type songs where you're in, you're out, and it's like, wow. I want to go play that song again. I love it. Street Side is probably my favorite Obsessed song out of all of these. I love that riff, and again, his emotive vocals that he sings with these songs where he's kind of like, come up beside me, let me tell you a story. I really enjoy his vocals. Blind Lightning, I love that riff. That is just a crusher once it kicks in. World Apart is like a punk song. That's a minute and a half long. I mean, so it's basically basically punk. And then Touch of Everything, a nice mid-paced grinder towards the end of the album. A lot of fun. I really always come to enjoy this album. And again, I can't say enough about Wino's vocals. And you know what? And as a guitar player, they're tasty solos. Doesn't overplay. They complement the songs very well. So I love it. Church Within is my personal favorite of the Obsessed.
He's an underrated musician overall, I think.
Yeah.
And how ironic is that my number 4 is your number 1, and your number 4 is my number 1.
And that's okay.
Lunar Womb from 1991, second album, Hellhound Records. And again, God, that cover painting is just—it's so
Yeah,
distinct.
mine's in color, so it's
I
even
know,
more scary looking.
I know.
So
This is old. This is like,
it's
this is
Goya. It's from the
Francisco de Goya.
1820s or something. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, just I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, oh God, look at that, right? So
yeah.
and it's a cool lineup here. You got Wino and Scott Reeder from Caius and Fireball Ministry, and Greg Rogers, who played on a couple albums here. All the stuff you already mentioned. I love Brother Blue Steel. Good, chunky, crunchy stoner rock song. Bardo is just great. Love the riff on that. Hiding Mask is just so barnstorming. Spew, so really cool and a little instrumental. I mean, they did a couple instrumentals on these albums, I think, pretty neat. Kachina is just so crushing. Such a great headbanger. Jaded is good doom track, big enormous riffs. I love Back to Zero. And I also love the production of this album too. I actually, all these albums sound really good, but they all sound a little really different. The guitar tones are just immense on these albums, which you need on an album like this, right? That's why I love this style of music. I love the title track, and I love Endless Circles. What I like about this album is that, and really all these albums, is that this shows that doom doesn't need to be slow and ponderous all the time. There's different ways that you can kind of have the same impact by varying tempos and changing arrangements out and stuff like that. So I think this is a really strong catalog. There's no stinker here. All these albums are really strong. It just depends on certain little things that might elevate one above the other, right? So for me today, I'm going with Lunar Womb, although I'm telling you, I almost think if I was to recommend one album to anybody to start their obsessed journey with, I might go with this one, to be honest with you.
It's a lot of fun. And what I had been was thinking of from the last few days, it's like seeing your Wednesday reviews, and people may be thinking, yeah, geez, Pete's throwing out all these doom albums, and I may not like doom, and it's all real slow. Oh, now he's doing a ranking of a doom band. And I'll tell you what, if you like metal, give the Obsessed a try, and you will see that there's a lot to offer on all 4 of these discs, and I'm sure that the 5th album will as well, with fast and slow and different vocals. I mean, even Scott Reeder sings a song on Lunar Womb, and with nice clean vocals. So yeah, I mean, not all doom is created equal. It's not sludge and depressing and ponderous, and that this Wino knows.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, right?
Yeah, but Wino knows what he's doing with these. The guy's a pro. He's a lifer, and he really does well with these albums, and for the most part, all of his projects.
Yeah, and what I really appreciate about this is, he could have easily gone and started up another band that sounds just like Saint Vitus, but really don't. Especially, again, he's got the voice, but guitar playing wise, this is very different from what Saint Vitus does. This is not Black Sabbath. This is not Candlemass. This is not Cathedral. I can name this is not Pentagram. I can name 100 other classic doom bands, and that's not really this. I mentioned Motorhead before. There's Motorhead-isms in some of this music. There's classic, just crunchy blues rock type stuff. There's lots of biker rock. If you could think, like, some of these songs are almost like I'm drawing a blank. Born to be Wild, Steppenwolf. There's some stuff on these that are like Steppenwolf on steroids, right? That type of thing, right? The gritty, like, biker rock. So there's all sorts of really cool stuff on here. Yeah, there are some really good doom things on here where it is a little slower and a little more grinding, but that's not like every song back to back to back.
Not at all.
Yeah, so it's really good. So in addition to this, Craig and I will probably be doing in a month or so, much smaller, well, not much smaller catalog, it's a smaller catalog. He has another band called Spirit Caravan that has 2 full lengths and a pretty jam-packed EP. So we'll be ranking those 3. We originally talked about doing it all in one episode, but we'll save it for another one. I think it'll be better. So that'll be upcoming. And like I said, when the new Obsessed album comes out in February, give us a couple weeks after that comes out, and maybe we'll do a joint review of that album on Ripple Music, and then we'll figure out where that would sit in this catalog if we were to re-rank the catalog. So,
and I'm curious how that new one will sound, because it as of right now, it said it was recorded as a 4-piece and
yeah.
with 2 guitar players, and these albums sound pretty immense with only 1 guitar player, the way
Yeah.
that they're recorded. So I'm curious to see how that turns out.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. So Ripple Music, of course, Ripple Music is a great place for this band, I think, and they are home to all sorts of cool stuff like this. I just got in a whole box of Ripple stuff just the other day. So yeah, I think it's a good fit, because they're a great home for bands who play, this kind of stoner metal, doom, biker rock, psych, just like Small Stone, and just like Rise Above, and just like Heavy Psych Sounds. There's all these great labels that are doing all this kind of stuff, and so it's not surprising that the Obsessed winds up there, as opposed to maybe back with Relapse Records again, which Relapse Records, not really a great fit for them, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So we'll see. So a couple months, expect that review of the upcoming Obsessed album. But until then, for those of you who are fans, or maybe those of you who are new to the band, like Mr. Gary Joyce, okay, the principal, he has been for the last week and a half been listening to all of these albums, and I know Gary's going to be ranking them down in the comments below. So for all of you, do the same thing, rank these 4 as you like them, whether you're a longtime fan or new to the band. Like I said, it's not a lot of music, so go check them out, let us know what you think, and visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also, down below, we get the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page. And coming up in a few weeks, I guess, or thereabouts, Mr. Kaminski will be back once again, and we will be ranking the catalog of Nebula. All right.
Yeah.
So talk about a really cool kind of stoner psych band. That's one of them, featuring a few gentlemen who previously were in Fu Manchu. So that's coming up probably sometime in October. So stay tuned for that. And lots more here on the channel. For Craig Kaminski, I'm Pete Pardo. Stay tuned for In the Proxy coming up on Tuesday. We will be venturing into album study mode once again. That album is Scheherazade and Other Stories by the Great Renaissance, and we have a very special guest, Miss Renaissance herself, Annie Haslam, the lead singer of the band, will be joining us, so it'll be a lot of fun. Hope to see you then on Tuesday. So till then, for Craig, I'm Pete. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.